Hey folks, welcome back. Today I'm going to be going over the folding method that I use. I did not develop this folding method. I found it online, but this is probably one of the better methods that I found that uses the least amount of paper and the least amount of time. Folding the parchment paper like this gives you a lot more structure to the parchment paper. I don't know if any of you have ever used the pleated parchment paper or liner, but it has a tendency to fold onto itself or fall in during the cooking process. But with this method, what you'll find out is it actually gives it a lot of structure. On the sides, I don't know if you noticed this, but there it's folded over. So you actually have two sheets of paper giving both of the sides a lot of structure. I did make sure to give it a little bit of height. As you can see, comes up the pan a little bit, but not enough to obstruct the other pan when it's used as a cover. So it should fit right in, which is perfect. The dimensions for the pan, from what I've measured loosely, is a little over 5 inches on the width, and on the length, you're looking about 7.5 inches. So you can also probably see the way it's folded, the corners has a lot of structure to it. So it really keeps it up upright. I don't know if you can see this, but it can pretty much stand on its own. So when you take your food out and you need to rest it somewhere or just leave it on the side and open up another one so you can use it again, it makes it a lot easier, especially if you're doing some type of meal, or if you're making some type of meal that has multiple processes and you don't want to have to clean the pan in between the different methods of cooking or the different things that you have to cook at the time. So it makes it a lot easier with the parchment paper. Let's go ahead and get to it then. So through a lot of testing, trial and error, basically came down to this. The correct measurement for the parchment paper is going to be 10 inches by 10 inches. Perfect square, that's all you need. There are many different ways to get the shape. What I did, me personally, I measured out a piece of foam board, cut it out, use it as a template, 10 inch by 10 inch, and I used this, which I rest on top of the sheet, and I cut it out. Made it a lot easier. During my research, though, I did find that there are pre-cut parchment paper that you can purchase from Amazon that is exactly 10 inches by 10 inches. And I'll go ahead and put a link, down in the bottom for you guys to see. So it'll make it a lot easier for you. So the first thing you want to do is fold this in half. You want to make sure and line this up just right. And what you'll find is parchment paper has a tendency to move around on you. So when you press it down like this with all your fingers on the parchment, it'll tend to slide. So what I like to do is to get at least a finger on the parchment and also on the surface. That way you know it's not going to move, because you do have contact with the surface. Then once you do that, press the seam down, and we'll go ahead and unfold it. We've got to do quite a bit more fold, so the next fold is going to be taking one of the edges and folding it into that first fold, or the seam of the first fold that we created. Again, trying to make sure and get this lined up. I want to get my fingers on the board. And there we go. That's a nice fold. Then we'll flip it around. And then we'll do the same. You want to make sure and get it as precise as you can with the folds. Just like that. Okay. So now at this point, what we've done is folded in the center half. Took the two ends, folded it in, so it looks like this, okay? Now we have to do a few more folds. So what we're going to do again is take the end that we folded it back out again. This time we want to make sure that that we're very precise with this. If not, it's going to be all cattywampus. So just take your time and make your folds. Press it down, make sure the seam is good. So we've got this one done. We're going to have to do the same for the other side. We'll go ahead and press it down. Oh, one's a little bit off. So we want to make sure just take our time and get it as pretty close as we can. Okay, so once that's done, all we need to do now is open it up. So just to go over, we fold it in half, open it up. We took the one edge, folded it into that first fold that we did, right? And then we took that edge back out and folded it up. So that's what we're going to have. So now what we're going to do is open it back out, just like that. And now it's time to do the corners. So for the corners are going to be very simple. All we're going to do is take this corner, fold it inwards to this line or to this seam that we created. Then we take this flap or this corner of this flap and fold it in the same way, and do the same for the other side. And then we'll do the same for the two opposite sides over here. So let's go ahead and do that. You want to make sure and get this exact as possible. What I'll do, I'm going to use a Sharpie here. Let's just go ahead and press the seam down and make sure that we get a really good seam. And so we want that to lock. This is going to be our corner structure. So we want to make sure that that's really pressed down and tight. Again, using the Sharpie. You don't want to use anything too sharp because you may cut into this and then it'll leak. But a Sharpie or anything rounded edge would do just fine. Again, we take the corner, we pull it in, and then we press that seam in. We take this corner right here, and then we bring it on in. Again. Just like that. And there you go. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this around and so we can do the other end. Okay, so now they're both done. Now, all we have to do is take each one of these flaps. You remember we already created the seam. We're going to bring this back over, just like that. Again, we're going to press down the seam. This here is going to be the top edge of our wall. So we want to make sure that that's nice and pressed down. Same thing on the other side. We're going to flip this over, just like that. And then we're going to press it down. Just like that. Okay. So at this point, you should have something looking like this. Okay. Now what we're going to do, I don't know if you can see this, but you can probably fairly see that the bottom of this triangle right here. I guess depending on perspective, it's going to be one of the sides of the triangle. So what we're going to do, we're going to make a fold that matches up these two corners, flip it over towards this in this direction. So what we're trying to do is create the other side of the wall and make sure that we have a nice good seam for that side of the rectangle. Just going to go ahead and press this down. And then I'll use the marker to really get that seam burnt in. Now again, we're going to do the same way, looking for those 2 points right there, right on the edge. And then we're going to fold it into that point. just like that. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and get that really burnt in. So at this point, we're pretty much done. The only thing that we have to do now is just open it up. So what you would do is the longer sides, you would just gently lift them up. Gently lift them up. Just like that. And as you lift them up, you'll see, I don't know if you can see this, but as you lift it up, it's going to flip out. It's going to want to flip out. And you're going to have to make it flip out. Just like on this side. You can see this here, but as you open up the sides, it's going to want to flip out. And you're going to do this for all 4 corners. Just like that. So it doesn't look all that great right now, but what we're going to have to do is just make sure and pinch these corners down just a little tiny bit. Just like that. Just pinch them down so they straighten up. There she blows. A nice parchment paper box. That'll fit perfectly into the short pan. Just like that. Again, dimensions of the parchment paper is going to be 10 inches by 10 inches. The next one we're going to do is going to be for the tall pan. Now, as you can see, this tall pan's a little bit of a challenge because the sides are 3 inches, but I do have the measurements, so I'll make sure and go through that with you. Okay. All right, so for the tall pan, now the tall pan's a bit of a challenge because you're definitely dealing with a larger sheet of parchment paper. This one, I don't believe you can find online, unfortunately. So this one has to be cut to size. So the dimensions of this is going to be roughly, dimensions of this is going to be 17 inches by 13 3/4 inches, okay? Now, in order to get the proper size for the base, it takes a little bit more effort in designing the folds. So I don't know if you know this here, but I've already folded, just like we did with the short pan, I folded in half. What I've also done was measured, I'm not sure if you can see this, but I put some markers on here. So using this as my center line, I measured 2.5 inches to this side and 2.5 inches to the other. So from here to here is going to be our marking points that we're going to have to fold to. Okay. In the first one, we just folded everything to the center. In this one, to get the correct size of the base and also the 3-inch sidewalls, you're going to have to mark this out. Again, this one takes a little bit more effort, but it does work just fine. You know, I don't think you're going to be, you know, making too many of these, but these are going to be really custom made. So again, to this point, we folded the sheet in half. I've marked out my points from the center, 2.5, 2.5. Total width between the two measurements are going to be 5 inches. Now, I've done the same thing for this side. So our first fold is going to be folding right on those 2 marks towards the inside. So I'm going to line it up, make sure I got it right there on the edge. I'm going to go ahead and put my finger right there on the board and the parchment. And I'm going to do my best to get a very straight seam. Okay. Now, once I think I have that seam, I'm going to go ahead and use my marker to really seal that seam in. Really get it in there. Okay. So that's going to be my first fold. So again, I'm folding it on the mark that I made, which is from the center 2.5 inches. Okay. First fold. My second fold is going to be taking this edge to this edge. Again, trying to make sure that I get it right to that point. This thing moves around so much. All right. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and fold that. There we go. That's the fold. Now again, we're going to do the same thing on the other side, looking for my markers that I made. So from the center to here is going to be 2.5 inches. I'll line that up as best as I can. Go down, and hopefully it should hit the mark. Yep, close enough. And what I'll do at this point again is make sure that I really press in that fold. There we go. And I'm going to take again on this working side that we have, this edge to this edge, and then fold it in. I think that's it. Okay. And I'll go ahead and really press that seam in. So what you're going to have, just like with the short pan, instead of having the folds coming together, you're going to have the folds overlapping, which is okay, which is totally fine. What's going to happen eventually is that you're going to see the actual corners of the folds kind of lock into each other, which is really nice. That way it gives you that real firmness on the side, and this thing really stands up on its own. So we're hoping to get to this point. All right. So again, at this point where we're at, we've got the center fold. I've made those marks on either side, total width of 5 inches, folded them in. They are overlapping, which is okay. All right, so everything right now, I've got it opened up so you guys can see. I did some folds on here. I just want to do some test folds to make sure I got the folding pattern right. So initially, again, just to recap to where we're at, we have the center, fold it up, then we have our 2 marks, we folded that in. So we have one on this side, and now one on this side. Okay, just like that. So what we're going to do from this point is go ahead and start making our folds, which I did a test fold just to make sure it was right. You want to make sure and leave this side open. You want this side to be left open. We're going to go ahead and make the triangles like we did, or the corner triangles like we did with the other side. I went ahead and made these earlier just to make sure that they fit right. Then once you have that in, then you can fold it over. Now you have to make sure that the other side is open. If not, it's going to get caught, kind of like what had happened right there. So once you have that done, then you can flip this one over. Now do the same for this side. Now, as you fold that over, what you're going to notice is that it's going to catch on this other side right here. Now, when it catches on the other side like that, it's going to give you a nice little lock of the 2 corner structures, just like that. I don't know if you can see that, but you see where it's locked in. So that's what's going to happen. Now you take this, and again, you fold it over. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and press that fold in. Take the other corner and press that fold in. Just like that. And we'll do the same for the opposite side. So now we're finished with this side. All we have to do is fold it in, just like that. And you're going to have something that looks like Noah's Ark. Just kidding. Anyway, So all you have to do now is carefully open, and I don't know if you're going to see that, or you can see that, but when you open it, it's going to flip. It's going to flip into that lock position like that. So again, we're just going to have to give it some shape. We're going to definitely have to pinch the corners just a little bit, just to make sure and get it nice and vertical. And then we're going to do for the same for the other side. I think you can probably see this better here. But when you open it, it's going to flip and then kind of lock into that spot right there, and that's kind of what you want. So when you push the corner out, everything is nice and locked into place. I'm going to go ahead and pinch the corners just to give it a little bit of a sharper edge, just like that. And there she blows. This is the parchment liner for the tall 5-way cast iron cooker. Let's go ahead and do a test fit. And there you go. Perfect fit. Not too much above the lid, just enough, probably about 1/8 of an inch. But you know, as the food settles in, it'll lock in right in place. Alrighty, folks. So if you like this video, please go ahead and smash that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing somewhere over here. Once again, thanks for watching, and have a great burn.